At my mom's birthday dinner, my dad pointed at me and said, "This guest doesn't belong anymore." My cousins laughed. My sister raised her glass. Finally, I smirked and said, "Then dinner's on your card." I walked out. 30 minutes later, the waitstaff came back with the bill, $2,800. My sister called me screaming. I declined. And then my angry family. It was the last birthday I ever attended in that family. The last time I let them drag me into their theater of politeness, stage smiles, and fake gratitude. I didn't know it then, but something would snap that night. Something I had been holding together for years without even realizing how much pressure it was under. My mother's 62nd birthday was already shaping up to be one of those nights I dreaded. She'd picked this upscale Italian place in the middle of downtown. Impossible to park. Full of loud conversations about hedge funds and yoga retreats. Everyone acted like this was a rare treat, but I knew how it would go. They'd all order whatever they wanted, act like they were royalty, and then sit back when the bill came, pretending not to notice the waiter hovering near me, because that's who I was to them. Not the middle child, not the loyal son, just the wallet, the safety net, the guy with no kids, no wedding ring, and apparently no personal life or priorities that mattered. My brother had a struggling real estate business and 3 kids. My sister was bouncing between gigs, always between apartments, always one rent check away from crying to our parents. And my parents, well, they'd long since retired into this delusion that I existed to make up for what the others lacked. But this time I came with a plan. I brought a small gift for my mother, a book of photography from a trip she once said she wanted to take but never did. It wasn't flashy, but it was thoughtful. And I didn't bring my wallet on purpose. I wanted to see what would happen if just this once. I didn't pick up the check like some invisible butler. They all pretended not to notice. Dinner started normally enough. Everyone talked over each other. My dad ordered the most expensive bottle of wine, then pretended he couldn't see the prices on the menu. My sister made a point of mentioning how stressed she'd been, loud enough for anyone nearby to hear. My cousins, who weren't even close to my mom, came mainly for the free food and Instagram stories. I didn't say much. I was just watching. Then, right after dessert, my dad stood up and tapped his glass. He gave this speech about how proud he was of our family, how grateful he was for my mother, how lucky he felt to have raised such strong, close-knit children. Then he turned to me. "This guest no longer belongs here." The table went quiet for half a second. And then my cousins laughed like it was a roast. My sister raised her glass and added finally. I looked around. No one seemed confused or surprised. No one defended me or asked what the hell that was about. It wasn't a joke. It was planned. So I smiled and said, "Then dinner is on you." And I got up and walked out. I didn't look back. I didn't make a scene. I just walked 2 blocks to my car and drove home in silence. It was strange. I felt calm, like I just stepped out of a building that was on fire and only now realized how hot it had been inside. About 30 minutes later, the waiter brought them the bill, $2,800. And that's when the calls started. First, my sister. 6 missed calls, then my brother, then my dad, which almost never happens. Then the texts. "You better not be serious right now. We can't pay for this. You always do this for family. You just left. Who does that? Are you punishing Mom? It's her birthday. I swear to God, you're going to regret this." I turned off my phone and poured myself a drink. It wasn't just about the bill. That night, I finally saw it all clearly. They didn't invite me to celebrate. They invited me to pay for their celebration. And when they thought I might stop being useful, they decided to humiliate me publicly with guests and cousins and even my mom's old coworker watching. Around 10:30 p.m., someone rang my doorbell. I checked the cam. It was my parents and my brother. I didn't even have time to decide whether to open the door. They buzzed in when a neighbor came out, and by the time I reached the hallway, they were inside. They walked in like they owned the place, like it was still the old script and I was just forgetting my lines. "We need to talk," my dad said. We talked for hours, and not the kind of talking that fixes anything. That night was only the beginning. They didn't knock like people who felt guilty. They knocked like people who were sure they were owed something. By the time I opened the door, they were already halfway inside. My dad moved like he'd been rehearsing what to say all the way over. My mom wouldn't look me in the eye. My brother walked in last, quiet, hands in his pockets. Nobody said hi. We just want to understand what that was all about. That's how my dad opened it, like I'd flipped a table and stormed out of a wedding. My mom jumped in saying how my leaving had ruined the mood and hurt people. She didn't say who, just that people were hurt. My brother said it felt harsh the way I left, like I'd made some private family tension into a public embarrassment. They circled me with guilt like wolves that hadn't hunted in a while. I asked them what they thought I should have done. Sit there and smile while they mock me in front of guests. Laugh along like it was just a little family ribbing. My dad waved that off. Said it was a joke. Said I shouldn't take everything so personally. My mom said my sister didn't mean it the way it sounded. My brother said it wasn't about the words. It was about how I reacted. That's when I realized they weren't here to apologize. They were here to reset the script. I'd messed up the play. I'd ad-libby. I was supposed to take the hit, maybe pout a little, and then quietly pull out my credit card when the bill came. They weren't angry that I walked out. They were angry that I didn't pay before I left. When I didn't respond, they moved to the next part of the routine. My dad mentioned that things had been tight lately. My mom said my sister's rent was about to go up and it was stressing her out. My brother muttered something about car repairs. It was subtle, but not really. This was the moment where I was supposed to say, I get it. Let me help. But I didn't. I told them I was done. That I couldn't keep being the one holding the whole structure up while getting nothing but passive aggression and disrespect in return. I told them what they said at that table was a line I didn't even know I was waiting for them to cross, and they crossed it. My mom's face dropped like she just realized this wasn't about one dinner. My dad tried to keep control of the room. He asked if I was cutting the family off over a misunderstanding. My brother surprisingly stayed quiet. He looked more awkward than upset, like he just realized he came to the wrong house for the wrong conversation. I said I needed space, a lot of it, and I needed them to leave. They didn't yell. They just looked confused, like I was malfunctioning in a way they couldn't diagnose. But they left. When the door closed, it felt different. Final. The silence that followed was the kind that comes after you finally shut off a machine that's been humming for years in the background of your life. The next morning, I logged into my bank account and found the automatic transfer. Every month, $1,300 went to my sister's rent. She never asked nicely. She just cried once months ago about losing her apartment, and somehow it became my problem to solve. I canceled it, no message, no warning. I didn't owe her one. She'd find out soon. For days to be exact. And when she did, I knew exactly how this family would react. They'd accuse. They'd guilt. They'd spin a story where I was the one who changed, the one who abandoned them, and that's when things would really start unraveling. For days later, the storm hit, right on schedule. It started with a text from my sister. Rent bounced. What happened? Then came the call. I didn't answer. She called again, then again. I finally muted her number after the 7th try. An hour later, my mom called. Your sister's in tears. She could be evicted. She didn't know the payment wouldn't come. Why wouldn't you tell her? I didn't answer that one either because the truth was simple. I didn't tell her because I didn't owe her. For over a year, I paid her rent. Every month without thanks, without fail. She never treated it like help. She treated it like payroll, like I was just the unmarried, childless middle son whose life existed to keep everyone else afloat. And when she toasted my exile at that dinner, she had no idea she was also cutting off her own safety net. But I guess they all assumed I'd get over it, that I'd cool off and return to my role just like every other time. Only this time I didn't. That night, my sister showed up at my building. I didn't let her in. She stood outside calling and texting and sending voice messages like she was trapped in a burning building. I don't have anywhere else to go. Why would you do this to me? You're seriously gonna ruin my life over a dinner? The irony burned. I didn't ruin her life. I just stopped saving it. The next day, my dad called. This time, he left a voicemail. This is family. You don't pull support over something like this. You're better than that, right? I'm better. I'm responsible. I'm dependable. I'm the one who pays. I'm the one who stays quiet while they disrespect me in public because that's what the better one does. I didn't respond. They didn't stop for 2 straight days. My phone didn't stay quiet for more than 10 minutes. They rotated between guilt, pity, and anger. My brother even texted me something short. Don't punish the whole family because you're mad at her. That's when I realized they all thought this was about my sister. They didn't see it for what it was. Years of being used, expected to carry the weight while they complained about how hard their lives were. So I made a decision. I called my grandfather. He wasn't at the dinner. He's one of the few in the family who still has some distance from all the drama, mostly because he's the only one they still pretend to respect. I told him everything from the moment my dad pointed at me to the moment they walked into my apartment acting like I'd done something unforgivable. I told him about the money, the rent, the manipulation, the entitlement. He didn't interrupt. He just listened. When I finished, he asked me one question. What do you want me to do? I said, tell them the truth. Tell the rest of the family what they didn't see. Tell them how they treat me. I'm done protecting them. He didn't argue. He said, okay. And just like that, the damage control began. Within a week, I started hearing through extended family, second cousins, aunts I barely speak to, that my parents were furious, that my sister was devastated, that I was twisting the story to make them look bad. But here's the thing, I didn't twist anything. I just stopped hiding it. After I spoke to my grandfather, I expected backlash. Maybe a new wave of guilt texts or one of those dramatic voicemails where my mom sobs just enough to make you feel like a criminal. But nothing came. 3 days of silence, then 4. I figured they were regrouping, maybe trying to get ahead of whatever he was going to say. But then my phone buzzed with a Facebook message from Carla. Carla is one of my mom's nieces, technically my cousin, but we'd never been close. She's quiet, observant, always kept a low profile at family gatherings, and I used to think she wasn't paying attention to anything. Turns out she was paying attention to everything. Her message was simple. Hey, I heard what happened. I'm really sorry. I always knew something was off with how they treated you. That caught me off guard. I asked her how she knew, assuming it was just the usual gossip being passed around, but she replied fast. Your grandpa told everyone at brunch, said it was time people knew the truth. I found out later that he didn't just tell a few people. He dropped the entire story at a big family brunch, a table full of extended family, including people I hadn't seen in years. No build-up, no soft landing, just the facts. He told them about the birthday dinner, what my dad said, how my sister toasted my exclusion, and how they all expected me to pay $2,800 while mocking me in public. Then he explained how I'd been paying my sister's rent for over a year, and how they walked into my home demanding answers, never once thinking maybe they were the problem. According to Carla, some people looked stunned. A few of the older relatives tried to defend my parents, said maybe there was more to it, but most people just stayed quiet. Apparently, it was the way he said it. No anger, no theatrics, just straight truth. And in that room, that carried weight. I didn't know how to respond to Carla. I just said, thank you. Later that night, I got a text from my dad. You humiliated your mother. That was it. No questions, no acknowledgement of what really happened. No apology, just that I'd made her look bad. That's what this was about. Not the rent, not the money, not even the dinner. It was about control. They were losing it and they were panicking. I didn't reply. 2 more days passed. Then I got a message from the front desk of my building. I had a package. I hadn't ordered anything, so I figured it was a delivery mistake. But when I got there, I saw the box, medium-sized, sloppily taped, no return address, my name written in Sharpie. Inside was a strange collection of things. A few old shirts I'd forgotten at my parents' house, a coffee mug from college, a school photo of me at 10 years old, and one of those paper cards from a dollar store. Completely blank except for one sentence in the middle. If this is what you want, then here it is. No name, no explanation, just that. It was petty, passive-aggressive, but it told me everything I needed to know. They weren't sorry. They were trying to spin it into my abandonment. I was the villain in their new version of the story. I took the box and dropped it off at the donation center down the street. I didn't need any of it. It was never about the objects anyway. That night, I made it official. I left every group chat, removed myself from every family thread. I blocked my sister, my dad, my mom, even my brother, changed my phone number, and updated my contact info with a few relatives who actually treated me like a person. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't even that emotional, just necessary. I thought they'd retaliate, maybe try to show up at my place again, try to drag more people into it. But what happened next surprised me more than anything. They adapted. A week after I cut them off, I heard from Carla again. She sent me a screenshot of my sister's Instagram story. It was her, my parents, and my brother on a beach somewhere. Matching drinks, fake smiles, hashtags about family time, and hard-earned breaks. Apparently, my parents had started covering her rent again. Not only that, they were traveling, posting meals and cocktails, and rebuilding stronger captions. The same people who swore they couldn't survive without my financial help were now suddenly just fine. Better than fine. And that's when it hit me. They were never struggling. They were just using me because I let them. When I saw the photo, I just stared. There they were. My parents, my sister, and my brother posing on a beach somewhere that definitely wasn't local. Sunsets, cocktails, hotel cabanas in the background. Hashtags like hashtag finally peace and hashtag family strong in the caption. My sister tagged a luxury resort in Florida. I didn't know what I expected. Maybe some sign they were struggling, some evidence that they missed me. But no, they looked better than ever. Like nothing had happened. Like I never existed. It hit differently. Not because I missed them. I didn't. Not anymore. It was the ease of it that got to me. The speed. For years, they built this whole story around how hard their lives were. My parents always cutting back. My sister always on the edge. My brother always trying his best with what little he had. And now they were drinking frozen dyes and smiling like they just escaped a hostage situation. I hadn't even been gone 2 weeks. That same evening, Carla messaged me again. This time, she sent screenshots, texts my sister had been forwarding to the extended family. In one, she said I unexpectedly pulled financial support and left her facing eviction. In another, she implied I'd been emotionally unstable for a while and was punishing the family for being happy without him. The irony was almost impressive. They were better off without me financially, emotionally, socially, and yet somehow I was the villain for walking away. I didn't respond to Carla right away. I needed time to think, but the more I sat with it, the more something became clear. I had spent years managing their reality, paying for things quietly, never saying anything, never telling anyone what I did for them. And now that I wasn't there to filter it all, they were spinning it their way. They had learned one thing from me. Silence creates power. But now it was working against me. So I wrote something. It wasn't an angry message. It wasn't a rant. It was just the truth start to finish. I included dates, amounts, and names. I explained how I'd been paying my sister's rent every month for over a year. How I had covered 2 of my parents' vacations, including one they told the family was a gift from all the kids. How my brother had sent me grocery lists for the kids, and I had just quietly paid them without asking for anything back. I added screenshots of payment receipts, not to humiliate, but to make it real. And I ended it like this. I didn't walk away because I was angry. I walked away because I finally understood that being useful to people isn't the same as being valued by them. I'm not asking anyone to take sides. I just won't keep lying by staying silent. I sent it to 8 people. Just 8. The ones I knew were getting the twisted version from my parents. The ones who had been liking those fake beach posts and commenting things like, "So happy to see you smiling again." Most didn't reply, but 2 did. One was my cousin Nathan. He just said, "I had no idea. I'm sorry, man. That's F*******. Get up." The other was my uncle, my mom's brother. We hadn't spoken in years. His message surprised me. "I always wondered why your parents treated you like you owed them something. Now I get it. Thank you for saying something." Later that night, I got a call from an unknown number. I ignored it. Then came the voicemail. It was my mom. Her voice was cold. No apology, just a sharp tone I'd heard many times before. "I hope you're happy. People are talking. You've embarrassed this family enough. You always knew how to twist things to make yourself look good." She hung up after that. That was the whole message. Not a single word about the truth of what I'd said. Not a denial, just outrage that someone else had heard it. And then the final surprise, my grandfather called. He'd heard what I sent out. I expected him to be upset, maybe ask me to calm things down, but he didn't. He said, "You told the truth. That's more than most of them have done in a lifetime." That night I slept better than I had in years. Not because they were finally exposed. Not because I won, but because for once I wasn't pretending anymore. I wasn't carrying guilt that didn't belong to me, and they weren't falling apart without me. They were thriving because the truth was they'd always had the money, always had the time. They just didn't want to spend it on themselves. Not when I was willing to foot the bill. I wasn't the villain. I was just the exit plan. And now they needed a new one. The silence didn't last. 2 weeks after the message went out, I got a letter in the mail. A real physical letter. No return address, typed envelope, printed on thick white paper like a wedding invitation. For a second, I thought it might be a legal notice. Maybe they were threatening me now. But when I opened it, the first thing I noticed was the handwriting. My dad's, but it wasn't addressed to me. It was a draft meant for someone else. The letter was written to a relative, someone from our grandfather's side. It was a weak attempt at damage control. It explained that I'd had a breakdown after years of isolation, that I'd become bitter after being alone for so long, and that they'd done everything they could to support me. They never sent it. Somehow it ended up in my mailbox. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe someone in the family, tired of the lies, wanted me to see it. I'll never know. What I do know is that it confirmed what I already suspected. They weren't just letting me go. They were trying to erase me. They weren't content with me walking away. They needed to make sure I was the broken one, not them. So I made the final move. I took down the last of what tied us together. A shared storage unit I had been paying for that had boxes of family junk they never once bothered to collect. A cell phone plan my sister was still somehow on. I shut down everything, cut the cords, canceled the services, transferred ownership of the few shared assets I could legally remove myself from, and then for the first time in my adult life I blocked my mother. I hesitated before doing it. Not because I thought she deserved another chance. She didn't, but because I knew the firestorm it would trigger. But in the end, I tapped black and didn't look back. The next few days were quiet. But then came something unexpected. A message from my grandfather. Short, almost cryptic. "They're scrambling. They didn't know you'd go this far." I called him. He told me that, after they realized I'd fully cut them off. No numbers, no emails, no way in, they started turning on each other. My dad blamed my sister for pushing too far at the dinner. My sister blamed my mom for letting it all go public. My brother was apparently trying to stay out of it, but was secretly asking cousins if they thought I'd ever come around. Then he said something I didn't expect. "Your mom's been calling me. Says they want to talk again, but not to apologize, to fix their reputation." That was it. Not to fix anything with me, not to understand, just to salvage what other people thought of them. And that was the moment I knew I had made the right choice. All of them, my mom, dad, sister, brother, they'd grown used to treating people like pieces in a game. I was just the one who stopped playing. They were still traveling, still paying rent, still smiling in pictures. But the shine was starting to fade. People were asking questions. People were starting to notice that the story didn't line up. And the more they tried to protect their image, the more obvious it became. They weren't victims. They were just used to never being told no. Now they're on their own and they don't like it. It's been 3 months since I blocked them. No more calls, no letters, no packages. It's like I disappeared. And honestly, it's been the calmest stretch of time I've had in years. I didn't realize how much noise they brought into my life until it was gone. But yesterday, I got a call from Carla. She said she ran into my sister at the airport of all places. My parents were with her. Apparently, they were flying to Costa Rica. They've been posting less on social media. The captions have changed. Now, it's all vague quotes about letting go of toxic people and finding strength in adversity. They're clearly still trying to control the story, but you can feel the shift. There's no joy behind it, just maintenance, Carla said. My sister looked tired, not physically, but worn out. Like the performative part of it all was starting to drag her down. The most unexpected part. Carla said my mom asked about me. She didn't say anything nice. Just asked if I was still angry. Asked if I was still talking to people. Then said something weird. She'll come around. They always do. It was like she convinced herself that I'm not even me anymore. Just a phase. A rebellious version of me that will eventually dissolve and return to the role they designed. They still don't get it. This isn't a tantrum. This is peace. And I'm not coming back.